Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Unveil Podcast. My name is Brace Harris.
And I'm Victoria Fenton.
Yes, and we are Unveil. So today, we are going to talk about embodiment. Ooh, buzzword, embodiment. How do we get there?
How do we know when we're there?
Yeah.
What it actually is?
Yeah.
Does anyone really know what it means? It's that kind of thing.
The people who have it know what it means, but sometimes it's really hard to describe.
Yeah. Like secrets of the podcast, we have just spent like 20 minutes trying to work out how to explain this.
Well,
and we do this for a living.
Well, speaking of working it out, so I guess the first thing is, why is this today's topic?
Yeah, and I think a bit like when we spoke about trauma, you look on Instagram or any social media, but let's just use Instagram, and embodiment's like everywhere. Everyone's talking about embodiment. Everyone's like talking about embodied practices, and it feels like
Why are you saying it with such disgust on
disgust on my face? Yes, I apologize, but it is like, it feels really, in a lot of times, I'll be honest, it feels really false to me.
Okay.
There's a lot of people who are using the word as like, oh, I'm really embodied, and I'm like, if you were embodied, you probably wouldn't need to say you were embodied.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't actually need to be clarified that much. So there's that kind of perspective on it. And I think that for me, as I said last time, busting through some myths is really important. But also, like, demystifying this world is hugely important.
Yeah.
Because we make it, like, as coaches, like, we make it seem really difficult to do stuff. And we make it seem like, oh, you'll never get there unless you spend a ton of money on me. And it's like, actually, yeah, there are people who need us. And there are also people who are put off feeling into this world because it's all jargon and concepts that people are like, well, that's very woo and it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, and also they don't necessarily understand it, and just we as human beings, if we don't understand something, we're like, no, that's BS, I'm going the other direction. I don't know what that is, I've never experienced it, my parents didn't know. And that's the cool thing about this work, is that it is starting to come into mainstream, and so it's becoming a lot more accepted. But there, like anything, religion, whatever, there are going to be versions that are more accurate. I say lightly with a smile, more accurate than others.
Right, and I think, like, when I say I've been in personal development for 20 years, I say that because I learned about a few personal development systems 20 years ago. It was not cool to talk about it then. It was not, like, in the mainstream at all. In fact, you were deemed really weird.
Yeah.
And I think as it's coming into the mainstream, as with everything, and I noticed this in a lot of areas, the people who are really on the fringes of it really deter people coming into the world because they make it seem difficult. They make it seem kind of non-scientific or non-realistic. And at that point, it just because of who we are as humans, again, we devalue it. Like, everything needs to be fact-checked and validated in this modern world for people. And it's why I in part love the work of Joe Dispenza, because he's done a lot to validate scientifically quite a lot of what is actually just energy stuff. And I'm cool with accepting energy. I don't need the science. Like, I feel what I feel and I trust what I feel, but a lot of people won't. So
yeah, and I love the science.
Do.
I love the science part of that, because for me, it gives me a foundation to build off of, and it's a foundation that I truly believe in.
Right.
Like, I believe in science. I believe in the universe and the quantum world and all of this, these crazy theories about how the universe was created, how it works, how it's made, how it continues to work.
And I think the thing for me is, like, I do believe in all that, and I love all of that.
Yeah.
And I spent 7 years trying to legitimize myself by clinging onto the science as if I couldn't talk about the
because you can't stop there.
And it's like that.
It just only
right
supports.
But for me, it's like, I don't want to limit myself anymore, and I can't keep all the science and then all of the spirituality and woo. That's like, it's a spectrum that's way too huge for me to keep, which is why I love being with you, because you get to geek out on all the science, and I don't have to worry about that anymore. I can just go, yeah. And I'm the weird one.
No. So, but don't get me wrong. I love the woo-woo stuff as well.
Yeah,
and I'm definitely down for, like, spirit and energy and all that. And my listeners, our listeners. Sorry, almost the daggers from the eyes. I think it's absolutely essential to stay open-minded.
Right.
I think once we start to shut off areas just because it doesn't feel right. Or I don't know.
Well, yeah, and it's
am I saying this properly?
Yeah, and I think we're all just a mess of patterns and fears and things that we've kept up with. So when instinctively, it's my gut instinct that it's not right. Is it really, or is it actually just you being prejudiced? Predisposed against it, biased or prejudiced? And it's a really relevant topic for right now in terms of everything that's happening in the modern conversation. But you and I we've had conversations about this, and it's part of our friendship and part of our connections. Like, we are super open-minded to what the other person's doing, the self-motivated decision. We can have really complicated differences of opinion or, different conversations, and we don't need to shut down just because the other one doesn't see eye to eye or anything like that.
Oh, absolutely not. So if you are listening and you are out there and you're like, yeah, this is triggering you, that is awesome. Stick to it. Like, let's explore that.
Yeah. And we're also going to come on to triggers later in this podcast.
Yeah. So stay with us.
Yeah.
Stay open-minded. I mean, knowing stuff that you accept or not accept is really good for your whole being. So
I love that you just said that, because that's my next sentence. Just bringing us back onto the topic of embodiment. The word embodiment is so useful because it implies that you are a whole human being.
Yes.
Nice segues.
I did that on purpose.
Yeah, you did.
Sure.
Not at all. So so having that kind of concept of embodiment, it determines that you aren't just mind-setting your way through life. There's a descent of the concept into form.
Yes. Embodiment. I mean, just the definition. I'll read it to you.
The dictionary definition.
Dictionary definition: tangible or visible idea of a quality or feeling.
So in a sense, it's something made real, made in physical form.
Yeah, and you know the difference when you truly believe something, like you believe it with, you've heard people say, with every part of my being, I just know. That is an embodiment type of sensation. Yes.
Definitely. And so in coaching world, we use it to almost imply or suggest that the stuff that you're talking about in terms of, this is how I feel about things, actually is how you feel about things. And it's really common in this life that we run around saying one thing and believing or thinking or feeling another.
Yes, especially the feeling.
Yeah.
I think for most of us, we say one thing, but inside it's like, man, that is not entirely accurate.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, let's get accurate.
Yeah, and it is about...
And let's get honest and accurate.
Yeah, and creating that that embodied belief, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you think embodiment is? Like, if you were going to say... Because breaking this concept down is really difficult, because the whole point of the word is it's not mental, it's physical. So breaking it down into mental linguistics is difficult.
Yes. So I've heard the word embody, seen it. Can you embody? Is this embodied? Is this idea embodied? Or whatever. Forever and ever and ever. And I never quite could put my finger on it. And that's why I think I said earlier that it's something that at least for me, I experience as a feeling and a sensation. Defining it, I must do with a dictionary.
Yes.
Because for me, when I feel embodied in something, it is a full-on there's a confidence, it's just this overwhelming sensation of knowing that this is right. I may not have all the proof, I may not know all the details, but I feel it. Like what I was saying earlier, I feel it with every part of my being.
Yeah.
That for me is embodiment. And I know the difference between when I am in that and when I'm not. And it's also my responsibility to myself to distinguish between the two. And if I'm going for an embodiment of whatever idea or practice, it's my responsibility to myself to honor myself and be like, okay, this is not quite embodied, or this isn't, dependent on how I am receiving those signals from myself.
those sensations. And certain disciplines would call this knowing beginning with a G, so gnosis, as in, yeah.
Ooh, tell me more.
Well, it's just physical knowing. It's that
Gnosis.
sensation of like rightness. And it sounds difficult to explain, but everybody listening will have felt this sensation.
Absolutely.
And it's like, it's not complicated to...
And if they haven't felt it, sorry, I didn't mean to, but I did anyway.
You did. Sorry.
And for those of you who have never felt that, I've never felt that before. Yeah. So there is a knowing in that. So knowing that you've never felt it is also an embodied.
It's a knowing. And the whole thing about this is that I don't want listeners to leave this podcast, and we will hopefully explore this, thinking that, I have to live from that place of gnosis all the time. Because as with things like meditation, as with like everything, the point isn't one state forever. The point is always coming back to that place. And the return is the most important direction that we can ever make in life. And I'm big on like, is it towards, away, motivations, the return is huge for me. It's that kind of, and now I'm back. And that kind of sensation coming back is just as important as being in the sensation. In fact, more important than being there all the time.
You're always in flux. Always in flux. And it's going to shift all the time. But you're always going to have the opportunity to course correct, make the little adjustments here and there, and those may be daily practices, daily mindset.
Well, we'll come on to that.
Thank you.
But there's another way to tell if you are embodying things. Because this, like, how do I know? Like, I believe that I'm coming from a place of gnosis and it feels really centered. How do I know that I am actually embodied? And so what are some of the ways that you would say that you actually can tell from outcomes rather than, sensations that embodiment is occurring?
Outcomes? Ooh. I stick to my word. And this, for those of you who have read it, it kind of goes back to the 4 agreements. Stick to my word, impeccable with my word, without sin, not in the biblical sense, but keeping the words I say positive. The power of life and death is in the tongue. These words are extremely powerful. Doing my best. If I can look back on my day, and I know every day for us is different, but if I can look back on my day and be like, you know what, with what I had, I did the best that I could that day, that's an embodied feeling for me. Because there's no regrets. There's no looking back and just being like, I should have done this, I should have done this. Like, granted, there probably were opportunities where I should have done the opposite, but I didn't, but that's okay. Because I'm moving through a process, and we're always going to be in that process. Am I even answering your question?
Yes, but you're still talking about internal stuff, and I think for our listeners it's really useful because that's a self-reflective practice, which for some people takes months, years to get to. But
okay, well, give me an example of
what I think is like an external. Life flows when you're in an embodied state. So things become easier, and you will understand that things are coming towards you that seem to mirror you, and things go out away from you that seem to be part of the energy. That's kind of where I was going with it. I mean, I still
I love that.
But it's just like, okay, so I don't know if some people are really not connected to their body, and that's something that they've got to work on. So you're really connected to feelings, and some people just aren't. So if they can't get into this, I did the best I could with what I had, sensation. So, well, how's your life going? Like, are you happy? Do you have great friendships and great relationships? Are you in a job you love? And these are not, you have to have these to indicate that you're embodied. Like, I've been in a job that I've had resistance to for 7 years, the functional medicine stuff, but I was embodied throughout because I could sense that there was part of a process and it felt like part of what I was doing, and I was very successful. So externally, financially, money was coming towards me, clients were getting better, there's all of that kind of stuff, and you can tell that I was coming from an embodied place because even though some resistance was there was external reality that was validating my embodiment.
That's a key distinction. Embodied doesn't mean everything is hunky-dory. And again, that the rainbows and unicorns and puppy poos are always there and it's cute and wonderful and lovely. No, embodiment means you're going through the ringer. Life's putting you through the ringer, but you're okay. You're managing. You understand the process that is taking place, and it's okay. And it's not fighting this uphill battle, or like I have to try to force these things to happen. I have to force that promotion. I have to force everything. Yeah, you can go for it, but be okay with the outcome.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to say is that like we haven't said why bother becoming embodied. Like, why bother? Why does it matter? And the reality is that energetically, life is lived energetically. So energetically, what you're giving off from your aura, not the bullshit you say from your mouth, but actually what you're energetically giving off is what's going to come back to you. It very much is this energy magnetism stuff. And so as soon as you're giving off an embodied, centered sense of self and sense of belief in the words you say, you'll find that actually your life is coming towards you in the way that you need it to, and you're receiving it that way. And that's the distinction, because otherwise we could just wander around and just like lie and deceive and say things that we think we should say and don't actually feel. We could do all of that, but your life won't come at you from the place you're talking from. It will come at you from the place that you're living from.
Right. Like, it will literally give back to you.
Yeah.
Everything that you're putting off. And for me, it's like, if I'm doing it and the feeling is off, if I'm not a 100% in, then I'm not gonna get that back. But when I make that decision, mind, body, spirit, to go in this direction, and do it honestly and not be hung up on the outcome, I always win. And sometimes what I receive back from the universe, from God, from, put in your noun,
choice of word,
it's always great. And it's always better than what I had planned and what I had expected. But living your life like that, it just is so freeing, because then you can just relax a little bit and enjoy the literal roller coaster that is life.
And it's, I think for me as well, like there's this sense of flow that happens that feels authentic and aligned. And it feels so deeply like it's coming from a place that's deeper than your conscious mind.
Yeah.
And it's coming from a place of authenticity. And that might not happen immediately. So
no, absolutely not. It is a process, and it's a slow process. There may be points, sessions, moments in your life where you have these huge ahas and you are forever changed. But I think we all know that those are very few, far and in between. But you can make them, or you can encourage them to show up in your life more often by how you're approaching your life.
And so we were discussing earlier about like, how does this embodiment feel initially? Like the flow initially doesn't feel authentic, does it? You were explaining something to me about the start process of flow not feeling authentic.
Oh yeah, it takes practice. You've got to practice. It takes discipline. It takes work every day, doing the little things. And it's the little things that are just as easy not to do as they are to do. And it's about choices.
Well, and we were talking about repetition. It's like it's just literally time and attention, reps. Like, how often are you continuing to show up as yourself? And it really reminded me of human design, where when you get into human design, which we will talk about on a podcast at some point, but just for people who are listening, it's a self-awareness system that encourages you to make decisions from a place of self, which is always physical rather than mental. And they say when you get into it, like, okay, but yeah, it's going to take 7 years for you to what they call decondition, which is basically shift over from a purely cognitive way of being to a purely physiological response way of being, or however you were designed to make decisions. And everyone fights it. Everyone's like, no, it's not going to take 7 years. And it's like, no, it really does, because the reason it's 7 years is things go in 7-year cycles. And that sounds like a woo concept, but literally cellularly, your body renews every single cell after 7 years. So you are in an entirely different physiology, and you've had to like one out, one in, the kind of difference between cognition-led versus whole being gnosis-led stuff. So when we're talking about embodiment, that's what I relate to. It's like this it's time and attention. You have to put in the reps.
Yeah, well, and it even can go smaller than the cellular level. I mean, just at the atomic level, what is it? 7 times 10 to the 27th power. That's how many atoms are in the human body. And
which is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like billions and billions and it's like what? It's like 7 billion billions or some crazy number. But at the end of that cycle, every single atom in your body has been replaced by a new atom. So you are literally not the same creature, being, entity that you were before.
Yeah, and I think that really speaks, I mean, it speaks to the science nerd in me, but also it's that, guys, this takes time. You're not going to wake up embodied. I mean, obviously there are people who've had spiritual awakenings. I've been privileged to be around spiritual teachers, 2 of whom had those kind of Sartori moments where they literally had an initiation from somewhere else energetically, no idea when, and they were different the next day, the next minute. And I kind of always wanted one of those, in the depths of my head, where I was like, just give me one of those. But I never got it yet. And it just is time. And speaking back to the human design thing, I've now done 3 7-year cycles within human design, and it makes a difference every single time. So,
help us wrap our heads around that.
And for me, human design was my tool of personal evolution. So it doesn't matter what your tool of choice is. You can choose meditation, you can choose whatever it is that's your discipline. You can do coaching, and you can do the multidiscipline stuff that we offer now. But for me, I basically had human design and other psychotherapeutic models feeding into that. So for me, it was my tool of evolution. And so the first 3.5 years was just a struggle. But after that 3.5 year point, back speaking to the 100%, 50%, so 50% of your cells now switched.
Yeah.
So you actually notice it's slightly easier to respond. And the reason I mentioned meditation is another one of the tools is every Eastern mysticism, every ancient spiritual wisdom, every knowledge that you think is a philosophy, all says to you, don't live your life with your mind, live your life from your body. That's literally the take-home tagline from all of these systems, no matter what method they're using, Zen, Buddhism, Taoism, doesn't really matter. They're just saying, you're not your mind, you are all of your being and your energetic bodies as well. So human design is a great tool for getting you back into your body. And so those decisions after 3.5 years, it suddenly became more common that I would be centered in making decisions for my body than stressing about them mentally. Hit the 7-year mark, and it's like I really had distanced myself from my own thinking. Not in a negative way, not in my brain's a piece of shit and doesn't have any value, but in my brain is brilliant, but can't make a decision for toffee. Sorry, that's a British expression. I don't know if that translates in America, but you can get the point. It's like, it's useless for me to think, what do I want for dinner? Oh, well, I had the salmon last night, I might want the chicken. If I go to my freezer and I'm responding to the same thing that I had last night to take it out of the freezer, that's what I do from a physiological yes place. And after 7 years, that became way more natural. The next 7 years was me getting to understand the cognitive loops of my mind. And okay, so now I'm not using this as a tool for me, I'm using it as a wisdom machine for the world itself. And I can give wisdom like this through podcast medium and all this kind of stuff. And it's that point was really embodied because I'm operating from my whole being. This bit tells me where to go, what to do, how to make decisions, which is why my life seems super random to people. Why does Victoria jet off to South Africa for 18 months? Because I responded to. Why am I coming to LA? Because I responded to. It's just physiological. It's not mentally thought through. If I'd have thought through these decisions, I wouldn't have done them. And that becomes natural after 7 years. And then everything is about evolution and learning and growth and fascination with what your mind does, where your body takes you. And
what was your experience? What has been your experience moving into an embodied way of life? What have you noticed that is different, that has shifted, that before you may not have noticed?
Well, I think when you're living from a place of mentally willing it to be, or mentally cognitively doing it without embodying it, it all feels very false. It feels very ephemeral, like it could disappear at any moment. Every success feels surface level yay, there's always an inner knowing that you're not, it's not you that won that thing, that did that
Or
thing.
waiting for the other shoe to drop that it might go away.
Right.
And if it went away, then what am I?
Right.
It's like, oh, if that's your concern, then you're definitely not embodied.
Yeah.
Because an embodied expression would be, if it goes away, that's exactly the
what
way.
was going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's the thing,
And it's to my benefit.
Yeah. And we've often had conversations where I said, I have to be completely unattached to the outcome of me being here in LA, the outcome of me...
Unattached to the outcome. I love it. I just want to repeat it.
Mm-hmm.
Be unattached to the outcome. Beautiful. Go.
And that can only happen when you're embodied, because when you are living from a place of embodiment, you're kind of in it for yourself. It sounds really selfish, but fine. You're in it for yourself. You're in it for...
Great.
I'm here because my being led me here. Whatever is here for me is absolutely perfect. Therefore, even if on paper it looks like terrible, it's actually what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, let's be really specific about it. The visa situation that I'm looking at the moment, where I can't get a visa to stay and live and work long term in America, so I have to probably do 3 months in, 3 months out, 3 months in, 3 months out, which is frustrating and annoying and really feels wrong from a cognitive perspective. But my embodied self knows, okay, that's actually what the universe wants me to be doing, and it will be for a reason. And at that point, all I need to do is energetically feel into my nervous system and go, okay, so what will make that feel safe, secure, doable? And we've discussed it. It's about, like, I need a place here that's my base on this planet that we call Earth, so that even though I'm not in it 365 days of the year, it's my home. It's actually a place where I can leave stuff, I can nest, I know exactly where I'm going when I get off the plane at LAX. I know, and that is me feeling into, okay, but this doesn't feel safe. How do I make this feel safe? And the only way you can do that is if you're not lost in the, oh my gosh, American immigration, how dare they not let me in, all of that kind of stuff. And that's where I live from.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Would you say that... I don't know what I was going to ask. Dang it, I had a thought come in and then
It will come back if it's meant to.
But yeah, go.
And it's like, so we were talking about my social media yesterday, and we were saying, like, I want to share how I live my life, because this place of mentness is genuinely the place from which I live my life. And it doesn't mean I don't have that. You know, you arrived just when I realised about my whole kind of visa thing, and we had a half an hour damn the world conversation, didn't we? You have to go through that. This is not, I'm some Zen master of, like, complete calmness. You go through the human frustrations, the absolute feelings of, oh, come on, really? And then you get to, okay, so I invited this impermanence, and I probably put it out there. Because when I came to LA, it was like, might not stay in LA, want to go down and see San Diego, might go to Austin. It's all of those kind of things. And I kind of, like, built maybe not into my stay here. And it's like, so the universe is giving me maybe not. And I'm like, no, but I want it now. And the universe is like, too late. Like, you'll get there. And it's
just going to take you a little bit longer now.
Take you a little bit longer. But I am taking applications for fiancés and husbands. American only.
Prerequisite, are you American?
Yeah, you have to be American. You have to have a house that I can live in for 2 years. And you have to be willing to help me get a green card.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I'm really, like, I've got no expectations.
I don't know if you're self-incriminating right now or what. This might need to be edited in the future.
Right,
So I've just given ammunition to anybody who wants to blackmail you. It's like, oh.
Yeah. We're going to tell the IRS, we know you faked it.
No, never.
No.
Because that would not be embodied.
Right, but I was literally just about to say that. The reason that I wouldn't ever do that is because,
Back.
Shut up. Do you know what? Energetically, I couldn't. Because this is just who I am. I don't lie. I live my life from a place of such honesty that to fake that just to get a visa, it's like, no, if the universe wants me to get a green card from a marriage, it's going to plop the perfect man in my life soon. And I actually suspect that might happen. This is me like really sharing shit on the podcast that I probably shouldn't. But I genuinely suspect that's going to happen because I don't get the sense that I'm not going to be here. And yes, it might advance things that should take way more time with relationship, but I'm at that point in my life now where that's the next step, that's the next thing to drop in. So it's just that trust. And if it doesn't, it doesn't.
And that was actually going to be my next question.
Mm-hmm.
Are you attached to that outcome? And you just answered it before I said it, you answered the question.
Right.
You're like...
And it doesn't mean that I don't want it. Let's just like clarify like
Yeah.
I really want it. I really want that other person in my life, that support structure.
But that's not your end-all, be-all, and that will happen organically. As long as you're continuing to... And this is what you said earlier that I think that I was going to ask about maybe. You said something about... focusing on you and yourself. And,
yes, the selfish bit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think I said this on another episode, but it's like, it's okay to be selfish. You choosing you actually makes it so much better for everyone else as long as it's done with integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And you continuing to move through your life and be okay with everything as it is and as it comes, although it might not all be smooth. You continuing to work on you is actually opening up and providing a space for that person to walk into your life.
And
it's keeping yourself open. It's like the person who stays with somebody that they're not in love with because they're afraid of being alone. You're actually blocking yourself off from being available when the right person does show up. But in that kind of paradox, it's like, well, if you're in that space, then the right person is not there yet. And so on. Yeah.
And the other thing that I'm doing as well, just to speak to this as we're there, like is surrounding myself with great couples. Like it is difficult to go out with a load of couples, but you can do it. And like I have you and your beautiful wife in my life who
thank you.
I get to go out with you guys. I get to go out with you both individually. I get married people who have beautiful energy and are so committed to one another. And that's valuable to me because your energy of relationship puts relationship energy around me.
Yeah.
And the more energy I can surround myself with, it's relationship.
The more embodied you get to be.
100%. And we've got other friends who are here in LA, and it's like they're in great relationships, really loving relationships, and there's spending time with those people as a single person, as long as they're not offended by my kind of like presence. The third wheel, as ever. But it is intentional on my part. Like it is completely intentional that I don't never go out with the married couples because they won't want me there. I know I'm valuable.
It's like, well, if you think that, then they won't want you.
They won't want me there. But you guys have been super open and lovely, and I like spending time with the both of you because you're just so lovely.
We kick ass.
We do.
We do kick ass.
This is just
okay.
Hashtag relationship goals.
Yes.
Anyway, moving back on.
Yes.
So how to get to where I've just described you can live your life from? Like, where do we start, Bryce? Like,
I would definitely say awareness again, and I think I've repeated this in every single episode, but it's so crucial. Just being aware.
And initially that will be like aware of all the times you're not living from this place at all.
Yeah,
like,
which is okay.
My spiritual people.
It's huge.
Like, there comes a time, and I've had this happen to me several times over, where you suddenly realise that the you you're showing up as is not embodied at all. There's another layer of you to lose, to leave behind, to surrender, and it's like an idea.
What a great place to be.
Right.
Yes.
But like this is what people like refer to as the ego death, and that's just the dropping of the identity that you've had as like. And I keep having to do this. We keep saying this. Maybe I have to drop the identity as a coach, like, and I have to put that on my table every time I find my life meet a maybe not moment. Visa situations like, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to be here and do this, and it's like something then comes in and the universe slaps me around the face and says, this is your calling, like don't. But I have to be willing to give it up all the time, and that is important for embodiment because you have to be willing to give up the identities of the narrative to get to the identity that's way more aligned.
And not worrying about it, just know that the right thing is going to come along, and it absolutely will. And the way that you process it will be much more healthy and beneficial to every aspect of your life because you are in acceptance of whatever that is.
Yeah, and I think, it's just about, so from awareness, where do we go from awareness?
Okay.
Like, because you can become aware of all the things you're not.
You become aware, and then you empower yourself, because then you can choose. Like a lot of the times before, like we said, the subconscious is kind of driving some of the responses, the way you respond to the world, and it's just knee-jerk reactions. But then when you start to become aware, for instance, I would have like a lot of nervous energy that would come up when, funnily enough, meeting new people, but only certain new people, and it was mostly in business. And once I was aware that was coming up, but that was not very authentic to who I was naturally, and super personable. I meet people all the time.
I was so surprised. I was like, Grace, you just like jazz hands your way through it, don't you? And you were like, no, I really don't.
I get like super in my head, or I used to get super in my head, and I would doubt myself, and I would, to the point where I would make excuses for not going into that situation. But now that I'm so aware, now I have a choice. Like that feeling may still come up, and I've done a lot of work in it, so it's not near as powerful, but I may feel that feeling kind of start to tap me on the shoulder, and then I get to make a choice. And that choice can be like, yeah, I get it. You're here. I love you, little worry person, or part of me, and then I get to move into that situation knowing what I know about myself, that I am this extremely gifted, charismatic, ultra sultry,
deluded,
insane, narcissistic son of a bitch. But they're gonna love that guy. I know it. I can feel it. It's embodied.
Right.
Yes.
And so that is genuinely about noticing when the sensations don't match the words you're saying.
Yeah.
And choosing to say different words that honor the sensations. And I love this because I coach my clients all the time.
I don't want to blow over that.
Go.
Choosing to honor those sensations.
Yeah.
Honor those sensations. Even if they're the uncomfortable sensations, those sensations are there for a very good reason. So honoring those, and we can get into that in another thing, but I just didn't want to pass that by because it's so important.
No, that's good, and it's good for you to like pull out these important bits, because some of this is so normal to me now, and that, guys, 20 years, like it takes 20 years. Well, it doesn't take 20 years, but it takes many. But I don't realize that things are different. Like, so if I get a sensation, I don't write over it. I completely honor it. I talk about it. I try and understand it, and then it becomes revealed oftentimes. But the thing I coach my clients on is say the whole truth, because often sensations come up and other people are going to be impacted by them. You don't want to go somewhere. You don't want to do things. You don't want to, like, if you're uncomfortable with honoring your embodied sensations in the beginning, just say the whole truth. I'm really sorry, I'm getting this sensation. I'm trying an experiment to follow my sensations at the moment, so I'm going to have to say no to this one.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to justify why you want to.
You can blame us. I listened to a podcast and people were talking about honouring your sensations, and so I'm trying it for 30 days. Like, it doesn't matter how you get through, just start to live from your body rather than from your...
Yeah, and again, honouring those sensations.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to choosing yourself first. Choose yourself first every time, and do it with integrity. Know why consciously, be present in the moment, and know why I'm going to say no to this. And that's one of the difficult ones. People never want to say no because, I'm going to disappoint this person or that person. It's like, what about you? What about you?
Just for my British people out there. Okay, so this is way easier for Yanks, and I'm sorry guys, but it is. Like, I remember Preston Smiles, our teacher, when he did some kind of module, and he was like sort of talking, and it was revelatory for me because he just used the phrase, I'm sorry, but I'm a no to that. And I was like, you can just say that? I was like, yeah, you can. You can just say, I'm sorry, but that's a no for me right now. I'm sorry, I love you, but that thing you're offering is a no. And I'm like, sorry, back up. Like, you mean I don't need to justify? I don't need to give them like my life story as a reason why? And you really don't.
No, you don't.
And it's so easy for
And if they have a problem with that, then
that's
it's
their problem.
It's their problem.
Yeah.
Literally, that they need to work through.
Yeah, and if they do need more explanation from you, of course. If they're your friend and you love them, you give it. But if you're making decisions based from your body, you are making decisions based on values and principles that are way beneath the cognitive, rational perspective, but also way beneath social norms. So if you're saying no to something that you quote unquote should say yes to, sometimes people will need a bit more explanation, but you just say, I have to honour my instinct on this and I have to honour the sensations I have. And starting to do this is literally choosing yourself. And that is the most beautiful thing that you can do. And that demands energetic spaciousness. Not respect, I don't like that word particularly, but spaciousness. Other people give you the spaciousness to be you, and then the process of embodiment just accelerates rapidly. As you clear these patterns of people pleasing and doing the things that you think you should do, and how do I compare myself to this person? Oh shit, I need to do that because that will make me. No, and you start to naturally, without work, clear the patterns that you've been playing because you're just listening to sensations of embodiment all the time.
Awareness, choices, noticing the words and sensations, clearing the patterns, clearing this programming that we've had since we were little, because that programming is outdated. It's time to update, you guys. It's time to update.
And you can do all the lessons and the courses, or you could just start listening to your sensations because they're always there.
Ooh, this is a test. This is your homework this week, guys. This is your homework.
Very sensitive. You're all our clients.
Start listening to your sensations. See what you discover. Journal about it.
And it doesn't mean that triggers and stuff won't come up. That's the whole point of this. Like,
everything is welcome.
You're all welcome.
Yeah. Well, everything is welcome in those moments.
And the triggers become opportunities, is what happens.
Huge. That's a big one.
Because this happened when I got to LA. It's like, triggers in terms of felt really uncomfortable for a long time, sensations and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, massive body of work that I needed to do. I showed you yesterday my journal writing since I've been here. You're like, oh my goodness.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And how much have you grown and opened up because of that?
So much.
Journaling.
And it wasn't, oh God, I hate the sensation. It was, okay, I hate the sensation and it's here for a reason.
And it's here for a reason.
And my killer phrase for people, that's interesting. Just like when something comes up, instead of react, it's often difficult to pull back that reaction. So react and then go, that's interesting. And I say to my clients, become fascinated in your human situation, in your complete idiocy, in your ludicrous perspectives. Just become fascinated by yourself.
Yeah. Be fascinated with how absolutely ridiculous you are.
We all are. I am.
Yeah.
I am. I know that my thought processes can be so irrational at times. And it's just like...
And at first, it's not fun. It's like the reps. At first, it's not fun.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you're like, wow, I am a lunatic. But wow, what an amazing, fun, crazy journey I get to go on with my nutso self and all my little idiosyncrasies.
Yeah.
And then you start to actually love them, and they become endearing to you.
Well,
and even then, you get to work with them and through them as well.
And it just becomes so quick. It's like whenever I get my little triggers that come up, which they do, of course they still do,
Yeah.
and I notice, I don't just laugh at myself. I do encourage laughter at oneself. It is a good thing. But often those triggers are your inner child. So if you're laughing at yourself, you're actually laughing at a child that's hurt. And that's not okay because we'd never do that.
Right.
So it's very much about going, okay. So I'm laughing at the adult pattern, but hang on, where does that come from with my child self?
And by laughing, I think just be curious, be amused by it.
Yeah.
Not laugh at it and be like, oh,
ha ha ha.
I'm so stupid.
Yeah.
This is just the way that I am. It's like, no. It's like, let it intrigue you.
Love that word.
Don't bully it. Let it intrigue you. Find out more.
And
Go into your own own little world. And just explore, search around. Maybe there's stuff that you find, maybe you find nothing and you're like, this is something I get to discuss with someone else. That's willing
and that's
to
objective
listen.
and that objective can be
supports,
an outside perspective.
Yes. And the triggers becoming opportunities is one of the cool gifts that you get to give to yourself when you really start to embody a practice or a way of thinking about yourself and your world around you, and experiencing it. Triggers becoming opportunities is so fun, because everything you used to be like, oh God, I hate that about myself. Especially me. There's still things that I'm like, oh, I just wish I didn't do the...
Yeah.
It's like they then I get to shift how I see them. I'm like, oh wow, that is coming up again, that anger.
Welcome.
Which we talked about.
That. Yeah.
It's now welcomed, and it's actually, I've found out, anger is my ally, because when anger comes up in me specifically, it is letting me know that something is off. Something is out of alignment for me. And then I get to step back and be like, okay, what is not aligned right now? And why is that bringing up this sensation of anger? And then it was my ally. When I figured that
your red flag, becomes the...
Yeah, it's just a signal.
Please notice something's off.
Yeah, it's a signal for you, and your body has a million billion ways of signaling you, and a lot of the times we're like, no, I don't want that signal, because it may be an undesired signal or a painful signal sometimes.
Well, and particularly, just to speak to your anger for anyone who's listening, these signals often have been so judged by oneself, but also pushed down by other people. Society. For long, and it's not acceptable. So you're then running around trying to avoid your signal coming up, hating yourself when it does come up, and then never moving through it properly because you're always trying to, in a state of suppression around it.
Yeah.
And then when you do this process, you're like, oh, that's just a sensation. Honor, welcome.
Yeah.
What are you here to show me and to say to me? And just to be super clear for people as well, I currently know that I am not sitting in a level of embodiment with a huge part of my purpose. I know that. I know that for a fact. I know I've got another ego death coming. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know what I need to do. I don't know where I'm going to go. But I fully know from sensations that I've got that I'm light years further on than I was even 3 weeks ago when I arrived in LA.
Yeah.
But there's something that is out of alignment, out of integrity. There's something that I'm not bringing. I think there's something that I'm not bringing out of me as one of my gifts that still needs to arise. And just sitting in the knowing of that, not being too frustrated about it. Sure, I've been through times of frustration, but I also know, I'm okay with this is the embodied self I have for this precise moment of this human existence.
Great. And that is a beautiful place to be. How many other people out there would not be experiencing that at all? Something's off. Everything's off. Everything's off! Now,
but there's peace in...
Yes! Huge. Say it again.
There's peace in the sensation of not quite feeling aligned, not quite feeling settled, not quite feeling everything's there.
How many people out there would love to have that? Peace in the not knowing, peace in the unsettledness, peace in the shaky ground.
Not yet.
It's like, man, what a gift to give to yourself, to be able to find peace when everything around you, to literally be able to create your own eye in the storm. And you get to create that over and over and over and over for yourself, and you get to choose to do that every single time. You create the eye. The eye doesn't form in the storm and then you get to step into it. You create it.
I love that analogy. I love that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It's copyright Bruce Harris. Fenton, Unveil coaching.
But I do, and I feel like there's a magic to having that piece around the not embodiment, which makes the embodiment 10 times easier to get to.
Yeah. You find the embodiment in the stuff that's difficult to move through, oh man, how much easier is everything else going to be? That's why athletes, when they are doing sprints and stuff, wear ankle weights.
Because then when they actually are in the race, it's like easy.
It's so much easier.
And I really need to say to people, we've spoken a lot today, it wasn't intentional, but about my approach to life and about how I live and that kind of thing.
Well, I think it's important.
But and I really need to say to people, this is the reason I'm a coach, because it took me a long time of isolation, trying to find things, 5 near-death experiences. It took me those things to find this space. And my one wish, many wishes for humanity, but one of my wishes for people, anyone who works with me or comes into my orbit, is you do not have to go through that level of dark night of the soul to have these learnings and wisdoms. It's my mission in life to give off this sense of safety and peace within my aura so that people just pick it up from me and I'm walking through the street. And when you work with me intensively, this is what you get, because you don't need to go to hell. Like, I needed to go to hell to learn it on some cellular level for something that I'm here for. But the reason I'm a coach is that embodiment doesn't have to come off the back of intense adversity. There's always a little bit of a dark night of the soul involved, I have to say. There's always a little bit of darkness, a little bit of shadows.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily have to.
Well, that's where the transformation lies, the healing, I think, lies in those shadow areas.
But it would have been massively helpful for me if I had had me in my, in those moments then. Because it would have been a different
mentor.
experience. Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Somebody that you could have learned from, who had already made a lot of those mistakes.
And gone through the problems and through the hell. So yeah, it doesn't have to, it is a state you can get to, it doesn't have to come off the back of all of the trauma. But it is lifelong work. You know, I'm always in process. It gets easier, but not because the trials get easier, but because the way you greet them becomes a bit more...
Your approach is way more efficient.
Right. You love efficiency, don't you, Bryce?
I love efficiency. The shortest, most simplest way for me. And sometimes, you know, we're always told there's a straight line between one point and another. It's the shortest distance. Well, in actuality, if you're talking like space-time and all that kind of stuff, everything is curved. Even, you know, how your atoms move within your body, they're moving at a frequency, so they're always fluctuating. So everything
I love
is...
what you just said, because frequency is a point that we just need to make. Everything that we're talking about in terms of energy, attracting things towards you, embodiment, all of this stuff, you will vibrate at a different frequency when you are clear of all the junk that you keep in your being and your aura and your mind.
Yeah.
And that's what changes your life.
Yeah, and that's not woo-woo talk either. You know, you've heard, increase your vibration, man, or change your vibration, man. I mean, we've heard that, and the joke has been made for years and years and years and years, but it's actually real, and it's based in science. I mean, you can look up stuff on string theory alone, and, you know, that's, again, theory, but based in some very good science. So everything is always vibrating. Vibrating. You don't have to take my word for it. You can jump online and look and see.
Yeah, go to Google for like your string theory
Google string. Kip Thorne. Look at Kip Thorne. You know, he's written some good books. You know.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, awesome.
So
chill out.
It all takes time.
Yep. Chill out. Don't rush. Small moves. Baby steps. Those are okay. And it may feel, especially in the beginning, like baby move, little move, little move. I'm not seeing that much difference. Just as anything else that you've ever done in your life or started. I mean, when you were a baby, to learn how to walk.
Yeah, you didn't give up when you fell over the first time.
No. And you had to crawl for a long time. But it's
I didn't, Joe. I did not crawl. I went from like, my mom was just like, you never crawled.
Oh my God, it's always about you.
It is. This universe is about me. Like, have you not worked that out by now?
Well, you were one of the special.
It's terrible for you. You don't build.
No, it is, and that was going to be my point. You completely interrupted.
No, but it's because of my connective tissue disorder, and it's
my God!
I know.
Again.
And it's stupid because honestly, Honestly, I have problems because I didn't spend enough time crawling people. So spend enough time crawling.
Crawl.
It's a problem.
Yes, the crawl is a huge place to learn.
Yes.
You know what? Actually, you just helped me prove my point tenfold. So I'm actually sorry for making fun of you on our podcast. We can cut that out.
No, we don't need to. We can share with our listeners how
much of a dick I am. Yes.
But yes, we were trying to make the same point. I just
Yes.
don't think you appreciated that. I think you thought I was saying it from some kind of egotistical. Oh, I walked straight away.
Oh my god. Never.
Oh, we are stupid. Anywho, we love you, listeners. If you're still here with us.
Yeah.
Homework is notice the sensations.
Yeah.
Start to notice the sensations, and as much as you can, if you live from them, life will change.
That is absolutely, that's the truth. Or at least the truth in my experience. Yours?
No, totally. And we don't want you to just believe us. We want you to try and experience it for yourself.
Yeah. Get out there, do it. But for now, I am Brace Harris.
And I am Victoria.
And we are
Unveil.